I was 9 years old when my mother sold me to hell. $5,000. That was what I was worth to her. That night, she took me to a dark mansion, full of people in white clothes. Bowing to an old man with cold eyes, he looked at me, smiled, and said, "Welcome, my daughter. You have been chosen." My mother took the money, turned around, and left, and I stayed. I stayed in that mansion for 12 years. 12 years of torture, of being told, "You are special. You were made for something great." Until the night of my 21st birthday, when I escaped in the rain, with bloody feet, with a broken soul, but free. 30 years passed. 30 years since I changed my name, changed my city, rebuilt my life from scratch. I thought I had escaped until last night at 3 a.m. when I heard knocking at my door. So much knocking. I opened it and saw 100 people standing in front of my house, all in white clothes, all silent. And one of them, a woman I knew 30 years ago, stepped forward and said, "The master is dead." And before he died, he wrote a letter. He said, "You are the only true heir. You must become our new leader." And suddenly, they all knelt down, bowed their heads, and started chanting, "Leader, leader, leader." And I realized they had been waiting for me for 30 years. And now they had come to take me back. Baby, sit down close, because this story, honey, this one is about darkness, about being sold, about escape, and about the past that never stays buried. My name is Eve. I'm 58 years old now. But this story begins when I was 9, when my mother looked me in the eyes and traded me for cash, when she sold me to a cult. Let me tell you about my mother first. Her name was Sharon Hayes. She was 2008 when she had me, young, single, unprepared. My father was some man she met at a bar. He disappeared before I was born. Never saw him. Never knew his name. Mama raised me alone, if you can call it raising. We lived in a tiny apartment in Oakland. 1 bedroom. I slept on the couch. She slept in the bedroom with whatever boyfriend she had that month. She worked at a diner, waitressing, made barely enough to cover rent and food. We were poor, baby. Real poor. Government assistance, poor. Food stamps, poor. Lights getting shut off, poor. But we had each other. Or so I thought. Mama was complicated. Some days she was good. Made me breakfast. Braided my hair. Told me she loved me. Those were the good days. But most days she was distant. Angry. Blamed me for her hard life. Said if she didn't have me, she could have done something with herself. Could have been somebody. I believed her. Thought I was a burden. Thought I was the reason she was unhappy. I tried to be good, quiet, invisible. Tried not to cause problems, but it was never enough. When I was 9 years old, Mama met a man named Brother Thomas. He came into the diner where she worked. Older man, maybe 50, wore all white, spoke soft and calm, left her a $100 tip on a $10 meal. She came home that night, excited. Eve, baby, I met someone special today. Someone who sees potential in people. Someone who helps people. I didn't think much of it. Mama was always meeting men who promised to help her. They never did. But Brother Thomas was different. He kept coming back, kept leaving big tips, started talking to Mama about spiritual enlightenment and finding your true purpose. He invited her to a meeting at something called the Sanctuary of Eternal Light. She went, came back glowing, said she'd found her calling, said these people understood her, saw her worth. Over the next few months, she went to more meetings, started dressing in white, started talking in this strange, detached way, using words like awakening and transcendence and chosen ones. I should have been worried, but I was 9. I just wanted Mama to be happy. One night in November, Mama came home with Brother Thomas. Eve, baby, come here, she said. Her voice was too sweet. Fake, sweet. I came over. Brother Thomas smiled down at me. His eyes were pale blue, cold, like looking into ice. Hello, Eve, he said. Your mother has told me so much about you. I didn't say anything, just stood there. Brother Thomas says, you're special. Mama said, he says you have a gift, a purpose. What kind of purpose? I asked. Brother Thomas knelt down to my level, put his hand on my shoulder. His touch made my skin crawl. You are meant for great things, child. But first, you must be trained, prepared. The sanctuary can help you reach your full potential. I looked at Mama. What does that mean? She wouldn't meet my eyes. It means you're going to go live at the sanctuary for a while. They'll take care of you, teach you. It's a good opportunity, baby. Something in my stomach twisted. I don't want to go. I want to stay with you. It's already decided, Mama said. Her voice was hard now, final. When? I whispered. Tonight, Brother Thomas said. We leave tonight. Mama packed a small bag for me, a few clothes, my toothbrush, a stuffed bear I'd had since I was little. I cried, begged her not to send me away. Mama, please. I'll be better. I promise. Please don't make me go. She didn't look at me, just kept packing. It's for your own good, Eve. You'll understand when you're older. Brother Thomas waited by the door, patient, calm, like he'd done this before. When the bag was packed, Mama handed it to me. Then she walked me to the door. I grabbed her hand. Mama, please. She pulled her hand away. Go, Eve. Don't make this harder than it is. I got in Brother Thomas's car, a white van, no windows in the back. As we drove away, I looked out the back window, watched Mama standing in the doorway. She didn't wave, didn't cry, just watched. That was the last time I saw her for 12 years. We drove for maybe an hour out of the city, into the hills. The roads got darker, narrower, more isolated. Finally, we pulled up to a massive estate, iron gates, high walls, a huge mansion that looked like it was from another century. The gates opened automatically. We drove through. Brother Thomas parked in front of the mansion, turned to me. Welcome home, Eve. This wasn't home. Home was a tiny apartment with my mama. This was something else. He led me inside. The mansion was cold, dark wood everywhere, candles instead of electric lights, and people. So many people, all wearing white, all moving silently, all staring at me as I walked past. We went upstairs, down a long hallway. He opened a door to a small room, a bed, a dresser, a tiny window with bars on it. This is your room, he said. Someone will bring you dinner. Tomorrow your training begins. Training for what? I asked. He smiled, that cold smile. For your destiny. Then he left, locked the door from the outside. I was alone, baby. Let me tell you what happened over the next 12 years. The sanctuary wasn't a sanctuary. It was a prison. There were maybe 200 people living there, adults mostly, but also about 20 kids, all of us between ages 8 and 16, all of us brought there by parents who joined the cult. The leader was a man they called the Master. His real name was Vincent Crane. He was 65 years old. White hair, white beard, looked like someone's grandfather. But his eyes, baby, his eyes were dead, empty. He preached about transcendence, about leaving behind the false world and embracing the true reality, about how we were the chosen ones, the enlightened, the ones who would ascend. It was all nonsense. But when you're surrounded by it every day, when everyone around you believes it, when you're punished for questioning it, eventually your brain starts to accept it. Even when you know deep down it's wrong. My training started the next day. They woke me at 5 a.m., made me put on a white robe, took me to a room where 20 other kids sat in a circle. A woman named Sister Margaret led the session. She was young, maybe 25, blonde, pretty, but her eyes had that same empty quality. Today, we begin your awakening, she said. You will learn to release the lies your parents taught you. You will learn the truth. The truth, according to them, was that the outside world was evil, corrupt, diseased, that families were prisons, that individuality was selfishness. We had to repeat mantras. I am nothing. The group is everything. My will is not my own. Over and over, hours every day. If you refused, you didn't eat. If you questioned, you were locked in a dark room. If you cried, they said you were resisting the light. The Master took a special interest in me. He'd call me to his study, make me sit across from him, stare at me with those dead eyes. You are special, Eve, he'd say. I saw at the moment Brother Thomas told me about you. You have a light in you, a strength, but it must be shaped, molded. I was terrified of him, but I'm ashamed to say this, baby, but I also craved his approval because he was the only person who seemed to see me, to notice me. That's how cults work. They break you down, then they build you back up in their image, and you're grateful for it. By the time I was 12, I was fully indoctrinated. I believed everything they told me. I recruited new members. I punished other kids who questioned. I was a true believer. The master called me his brightest star, said I would one day lead, that I was being groomed for greatness. Part of me was proud. Part of me was terrified. But I didn't know how to be anything else anymore. But then something happened when I was 16. A new girl arrived. Her name was Maya. She was 15. Her parents had just joined. She, angry, defiant, refused to participate. They put her in isolation, starved her, tried to break her. I was assigned to help her, to convince her, to comply. I went into her room. She was sitting on the floor, thin, exhausted, but her eyes were still full of fire. "You gonna tell me I'm special too?" she said. "That I'm chosen?" "You are," I said. Automatic response. She laughed, bitter. "You actually believe this shit, don't you?" "It's the truth," I said. "It's slavery," she said. "Look at yourself. You're 16 years old, and you're wearing a cult uniform and repeating brainwashed nonsense. This isn't enlightenment. It's abuse." Her words hit me like a slap, because somewhere deep down, in a place I'd buried, I knew she was right. "I used to be like you," she said quieter, believing everything they said. But then I remembered. I remembered what it felt like to have a choice, to have a name, to be a person, not a drone. I left her room shaking. That conversation planted a seed, a tiny seed of doubt. I started noticing things. How the master lived in luxury while we lived in poverty. How he preached humility but demanded worship. How he talked about love but ruled through fear. I started remembering who I was before this place. Eve Hayes, a little girl who liked drawing, who wanted to be a teacher, who had dreams, who had been sold. When I was 18, Maya escaped. One night, she just vanished. They searched for days, never found her. The master was furious, called us all together, said Maya was weak, that she'd betrayed the light, that we should pity her. But I didn't pity her. I envied her because she'd done what I was too afraid to do. She'd left. It took me 3 more years to work up the courage. 3 more years of pretending, of playing the loyal follower, of being the master's favorite, all while secretly planning my escape. I stole small amounts of money from the master's office, hid it in my room. I studied the guard schedules, the gate codes, the blind spots in security. And on my 21st birthday, during a storm, when everyone was distracted by a ceremony, I ran. I climbed out my window, dropped 2 stories into the garden, ran through the rain, climbed the wall, cut my hands and feet on the barbed wire at the top, dropped to the other side. And I ran until my lungs burned, until my feet bled, until I couldn't run anymore. I made it to a gas station 5 miles away, called the police, told them everything. They raided the sanctuary that night, arrested the master, arrested Brother Thomas and Sister Margaret, and 30 others. But they didn't shut it down because the adults there were there voluntarily, and most of them refused to leave, said they were being persecuted for their beliefs. The kids were removed, sent to foster care. But the cult remained smaller, quieter, but alive. I went into foster care, then aged out at 18. Got my GED, went to community college, worked 3 jobs, built a life from nothing. I changed my name. Eve Hayes became Evelyn Hart. I moved to Seattle, far from California, far from the sanctuary, far from my past. I became a social worker, worked with at-risk youth, kids in bad situations. I wanted to help kids like me, kids who'd been abandoned, betrayed. I got therapy, lots of therapy, processed the trauma, the abuse, the brainwashing. I built a good life, a quiet life, a safe life. I thought I was free. Last night, I learned I was wrong. I was asleep. It was 3 a.m. and I heard knocking, loud, insistent, multiple fists on my door. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911, looked through the peephole, and my blood went cold. Outside my door stood at least 100 people, all wearing white, all standing in perfect rows, all completely silent. My hands shook as I unlocked the door, opened it. They didn't move, just stared. Then one woman stepped forward. I recognized her immediately. Sister Margaret, older now, but the same. Evelyn, she said, using my new name, which meant they'd been tracking me. What do you want? I said, my voice shaking. The master is dead, she said. He passed 3 days ago. And before he died, he left instructions. He left a letter. For you, she held out an envelope, yellowed, sealed with red wax. I didn't want to take it, but something made me reach out, take it. What does it say? I asked. Open it, she said. I broke the seal, pulled out a single page, handwritten in the master's precise script. It read, My dearest Eve, if you are reading this, I have ascended to the next plane, and you, my brightest star, must take your rightful place. You were never meant to escape. You were meant to leave, to experience the false world, to see its emptiness, so that when you returned, you would lead with wisdom and strength. Everything I did was to prepare you for this moment. You are my successor, my heir, the true leader of the sanctuary. The others know this. They have been waiting. And now it is time. Come home, Eve. Come home and claim your destiny. With eternal light, Master Vincent Crane. I looked up at Sister Margaret, at the 100 people behind her. You can't be serious, I said. We are completely serious, she said. You are the chosen one. You always have been, and we have come to bring you home. Then, all at once, they knelt. Every single person. Heads bowed, and they began to chant, Leader, 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 baby. I slammed the door, locked it, backed away, but they didn't leave. I could hear them outside, still chanting, still waiting. I called the police. They came, told the group to disperse. They did, peacefully, no resistance. But before they left, Sister Margaret handed the officer a business card, said to give it to me. On it was an address and a single sentence. The sanctuary awaits its queen. They've been back every night since. Same time, same number, standing outside my apartment, waiting. I've tried to ignore them, tried to move, but they find me, always, because I am the one thing the Master taught them to believe in most. I am their prophecy, their chosen leader, their future, and they will never stop coming. So, honey, here's what I've learned. Some prisons don't have walls. Some prisons are people, beliefs, legacies. You can run from a place, change your name, build a new life. But if someone decides you belong to them, if they build their entire reality around you, you can never truly escape. I don't know what I'm going to do, baby. Part of me wants to go to the sanctuary, not to lead them, but to burn it down from the inside, to free them the way I freed myself. But another part of me knows that's exactly what the Master wanted, to pull me back in. Let me tell you what's been happening since that first night. The cult members, they call themselves the Awakened, have set up camp outside my building. They don't threaten, don't harass. They just exist, watching, waiting. My neighbors are terrified. The building manager wants to evict me, says I'm bringing dangerous people to the property. I've talked to lawyers, to deprogramming experts, to former cult members. Everyone says the same thing. You can't reason with true believers. They have to choose to leave. But these people don't want to leave. They want me. On day 5, Sister Margaret came to my door alone. No chanting, no crowd, just her. I opened the door a crack. "What do you want?" "To talk," she said. "Just talk. Please." Against my better judgment, I let her in. She sat on my couch, looked around my apartment, at my books, my plants, my normal life. "You've built something nice here," she said. "What do you want, Margaret?" I said, again. She looked at me with those pale blue eyes. "I want you to understand something. We're not here to force you. We're here because we need you, because without you, the sanctuary will die." "Good," I said. "Let it die. It should have died 30 years ago." "You don't mean that," she said. "The sanctuary saved me, Eve. I was homeless, addicted, dying on the streets. They took me in, gave me purpose, family, a reason to live. They brainwashed you," I said. "They gave me hope," she corrected. "And yes, the Master was flawed. He made mistakes. He hurt people, including you. But the community itself, the 200 people who are still there, they're good people, lost people, people who need guidance. I'm not a leader," I said. "I don't want to be anyone's savior." "You already are," Margaret said. "The Master taught us about you for 30 years. Told us you were being tested, that you would return transformed. We've been preparing, waiting. You are our prophecy fulfilled, Eve, whether you accept it or not." I felt sick. "You're insane." "All of you," Margaret stood up. "Maybe we are, but we're also desperate. The sanctuary is falling apart without leadership. People are leaving, fighting. We need someone to unify us. Someone we all believe in." "Find someone else," I said. There's no one else. Margaret said simply. It has to be you. She left, and I sat in my apartment, shaking. Day 7. I did something I swore I'd never do. I called my mother. I hadn't spoken to her in 30 years. Didn't even know if she was alive. But I needed answers. Needed to know why she'd done it. Why she'd sold me. I tracked her down through public records. She was living in Nevada, remarried, new last name. I called the number. It rang 4 times. Then a woman's voice, older, raspy from cigarettes. Hello, Sharon, I said. It's Eve. Your daughter? Long silence. Then Eve? Oh my God. Eve, I need to talk to you, I said. I can't believe it's you. After all these years. How are you? Where are you? Answer my question first, I said. Why did you sell me to the sanctuary? Another long silence. Then she started crying. I didn't sell you. I gave you a chance. A better life than I could give you. A better life? I said, voice rising. You gave me to a cult. They tortured me, brainwashed me. I lost 12 years of my life. They promised me you'd be safe. She sobbed, that you'd have food, shelter, education, things I couldn't afford. Brother Thomas said you were special, that you'd be treated like royalty. He lied, I said. They all lied. And you believed them, because they paid you. I needed that money, she said defensively. I was going to lose our apartment. We would have been on the streets. I did what I had to do to survive. You sold your daughter to survive, I said flatly. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Eve. I've lived with that guilt every day for 30 years. I tried to find you, to get you back, but they said you'd been relocated. That I'd signed away my parental rights. I had no legal standing. Did you even try? I asked. I tried, she said, for about a year. Then I gave up. I told myself you were better off, that they were giving you opportunities I never could. I convinced myself I'd done the right thing. I closed my eyes. You destroyed my childhood. I know, she said, and if I could take it back, I would. But I can't. All I can do is say I'm sorry and mean it. Your apology doesn't fix anything, I said. It doesn't give me back those years. It doesn't undo the trauma. I know, she said again. So why are you calling me now? After all these years, I told her about the master's death, about the cult members showing up, about the letter declaring me the heir. She was quiet for a long time. Then, are you going to do it? Do what? Become their leader? Of course not, I said. I'm not going back to that place, but you could help them. She said, you could change things. Make the sanctuary what it should have been. A real sanctuary, not a prison. That's not my responsibility. I said, maybe it is. She said, maybe this is your chance to take something terrible and turn it into something good. To save people the way you saved yourself. I hung up on her. Day 10. I did something else I never thought I'd do. I went to the sanctuary, not to join them, not to lead them, but to see it, to face it, to maybe, finally, put it to rest. I drove the 2 hours from Seattle to the compound in the hills. The gates were open, no guards, like they were expecting me. I parked and got out. The mansion looked the same, dark, gothic, imposing, but also smaller somehow, less terrifying than I remembered. Sister Margaret was waiting at the front door. "You came. I'm not staying," I said. "I just need to see it." "Need closure?" "Of course," she said. "Whatever you need." She led me inside. The smell hit me first. Incense, old wood, candles. It triggered memories I'd buried. My stomach twisted, but I kept walking. The main hall was full of people, all wearing white, all turning to look at me as I entered. I recognized some faces, older now, but the same. People who'd been there when I was a child. People who'd watched me grow up in captivity. They didn't speak, just watched. Reverent, hopeful. Margaret led me through the halls, showed me the common areas, the sleeping quarters, the meditation room where we'd spent hours every day reciting mantras. It all looked sad, run down. The paint was peeling. The furniture was old. The place was falling apart. "We don't have the money to maintain it," Margaret explained. "After the master died, donations stopped. People left. We're down to about 80 full-time residents, mostly older members. People with nowhere else to go. Then leave," I said. "All of you. Go back to the real world." "This is our real world," Margaret said. "For better or worse, this is home. And without leadership, it's dying." She took me to the master's study, the room where he'd called me so many times, where he'd groomed me to be his successor. The room was exactly as I remembered. Dark, wood desk, bookshelves, a portrait of the master on the wall. Margaret opened a drawer, pulled out a thick folder. "He kept records. On you. On all the children. Years of observations, plans, prophecies." She handed it to me. I opened it, page after page of notes about me, from age 9 to 21. He documented everything. My progress, my struggles, my personality, my potential. On the last page was a single sentence in his handwriting. "Eve Hayes is the future of the sanctuary. She is the only one who can lead us into the new age. She will resist, but she will return, because she knows, deep in her soul, that this is her destiny." I closed the folder, felt sick. "He was obsessed with you," Margaret said quietly. "Talked about you constantly, even after you left, especially after you left. He said your escape was part of the plan, that you needed to see the outside world to understand your purpose." "This isn't my purpose," I said. "I'm not this person. I'm not his chosen one, but you are here," Margaret said. "After 30 years, you came back. That has to mean something." I looked around the room, at the decay, at the desperation, at the fading dream of a dead man. And I realized something. They were prisoners, too, just like I had been. Prisoners of an ideology, a belief system, a lie they'd been told so many times they couldn't see the truth anymore. And maybe I could free them, not by leading them, but by showing them the way out. I stayed at the sanctuary for 3 days, talked to the residents, listened to their stories, heard their fears and hopes and regrets. Most of them were like Margaret, lost souls who'd found community in this place, who genuinely believed they'd found enlightenment. But some were different. Some were questioning, doubting, staying only because they had nowhere else to go. Those were the ones I focused on. I started small. Casual conversations. Asking questions. What would you do if you could leave? Where would you go? What would you want? At first, they gave me rehearsed answers. I would never leave. This is my home, my purpose. But I pushed, gently. But if you could, hypothetically, if the sanctuary didn't exist, what would you want? And slowly, cracks appeared. I miss my sister. I always wanted to be a teacher. I wonder what my kids look like now. Humanity. Peeking through the programming. On the third day, I called a meeting. All 80 residents in the main hall. They sat in rows, silent, expectant, waiting for me to take my place at the front, to accept my role as their leader. Instead, I sat on the floor, cross-legged, like one of them. I'm not your leader, I said. I'm not your savior. I'm not your chosen one. I'm just a woman who survived this place. And I'm here to tell you that you can survive too. You can leave murmurs, confusion, fear. I know you've been taught that the outside world is evil, that leaving means abandoning your purpose. But that's not true. The outside world is hard, but it's also full of possibility, of choice, of freedom. Sister Margaret stood up. Eve, you don't understand. We don't want to leave. We're happy here. Are you? I asked. Are you really happy? Or are you just afraid? Silence. Because I was afraid too, I continued. I was terrified when I left. Didn't know how to function in the real world. Didn't know who I was without the sanctuary defining me. But I figured it out. And you can too? We have nothing out there. An older man said. No money. No family. No skills. That's not true, I said. You have yourselves. You have each other. And there are resources, programs, people who help former cult members reintegrate. You're trying to destroy us, Margaret said, her voice shaking. You're trying to kill the sanctuary. No, I said. I'm trying to free you. The way I freed myself. Not everyone listened. Some people left the meeting angry, accused me of being a false prophet, a traitor. But some stayed, asked questions, wanted to know more. And over the next 2 weeks, 15 people left, packed their things, walked out the gates, went to the halfway house I'd connected them with. It wasn't many, but it was a start. Sister Margaret was one of the last to leave. She came to me on my final day there. I don't forgive you for this. I don't need your forgiveness, I said. You destroyed everything the master built. No, I said. I helped people escape what the master built. There's a difference. She stared at me for a long moment. Then, quietly, maybe you're right. Maybe I have been afraid. Maybe we all have. It's okay to be afraid, I said. But don't let fear be the reason you stay. She left the next morning, called me a week later from her sister's house in Oregon, said she was scared, but also relieved. I forgot what it felt like to choose, she said, to have autonomy. Thank you for reminding me. The sanctuary still exists. There are about 40 people left. Die-hard believers who refuse to leave, who insist I'm the prophesied leader and I'm abandoning them. Maybe the first aim, or maybe I'm just showing them that you don't need a leader. You need yourself. Let me tell you about what happened after I left the sanctuary that final time. I went back to Seattle, back to my apartment, back to my job. Tried to return to normal life. But honey, there's no going back to normal after something like that. Your definition of normal changes, expands, becomes something different entirely. The former cult members I'd helped escape, we stayed in touch, formed a support group, met once a week at a community center, talked about our experiences, our struggles, our victories. There was James, 52 years old, been in the sanctuary for 25 years, left his wife and kids to join. Hadn't spoken to them in decades. Now he was trying to reconnect, to rebuild those bridges. It was slow, painful, but he was trying. There was Carla, 38, born into the cult. Never knew anything else. Struggled with basic things. How to use a credit card. How to apply for a job. How to make decisions without asking permission. But she was learning, getting stronger every day. And there was Margaret, who became one of my closest friends. Strange how that works, isn't it? The woman who'd come to recruit me back became the woman who sat with me through panic attacks and nightmares. She told me more about the master during one of our coffee meetups. He was obsessed with legacy, she said, terrified of being forgotten. That's why he fixated on you. You were young, moldable. He thought he could shape you into the perfect successor. Someone who would carry on his work long after he died. But I didn't, I said. No, she agreed. You did something better. You dismantled it. Not completely, though. Those 40 remaining members still lived at the sanctuary, still practiced their rituals, still believed. I tried not to think about them, but guilt gnawed at me. Should I have tried harder? Should I have forced them to leave? My therapist, yes, I went back to therapy after all this, said no. You can't save people who don't want to be saved, Dr. Richardson told me. You gave them the option, the information, the resources. What they do with that is their choice. Choice, that word kept coming up because that's what it all came down to. The ability to choose. That's what the master had stolen from us. That's what I was trying to give back. 6 months after my final visit to the sanctuary, I got a call from a detective. Said they needed me to come to the station, that there'd been an incident. My heart sank. What kind of incident? I'd rather explain in person, he said. I drove to the police station, hands shaking the whole way. Detective Morris was a large black man with kind eyes. He sat me down in an interview room, offered me coffee. I declined. Ms. Hart, he said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but there was a fire at the sanctuary compound 3 days ago. My stomach dropped. Was anyone hurt? No, he said quickly. Everyone got out. But the main building is completely destroyed. They're investigating the cause. Investigating? You think it was arson? He paused. We're not ruling anything out. But I wanted to talk to you because several of the residents mentioned your name. Said you'd been there recently, that you tried to convince people to leave. I felt defensive immediately. I didn't set any fire. I'm not accusing you, he said, but I need to understand the situation. What exactly happened during your visit? I told him everything about the master's letter, about going to the sanctuary, about talking to the residents, about the 15 people who'd left and the ones who stayed. He said, how did they feel about you? Mixed, I admitted. Some saw me as a traitor, others as a savior. Most were just confused. He nodded, wrote something in his notebook. The thing is, Miss Hart, we found something in the ruins. A journal. Belonged to a woman named Patricia Lynn. Know her? I shook my head. I don't think so. He opened a folder, pulled out photocopied pages. She wrote about you. A lot. Said you were the false prophet, that you were trying to destroy the master's legacy, that something had to be done. I felt cold. Are you saying she started the fire? We think so, he said. Her body was found in the basement. Looks like she started the fire and then couldn't get out. Or chose not to. Suicide. She'd burned down the sanctuary and killed herself in the process. There's more, Detective Morris said. He showed me another entry, dated the day before the fire. The false prophet has corrupted our people, led them astray. The only way to save the sanctuary is to purify it, to burn away the corruption and let it rise from the ashes. The master showed me in a vision. I know what I must do. I felt sick. She did this because of me. No, Detective Morris said firmly. She did this because she was brainwashed. Because she couldn't cope with change. Because she'd built her entire identity around a cult and couldn't let it go. That's not your fault, but it felt like my fault. Another death. Another casualty of the master's manipulation. The remaining residents of the sanctuary scattered after the fire. Some went to live with relatives. Some went to shelters. A few came to our support group. But some disappeared, refused help, insisted they'd rebuild, that the fire was a test, that they'd rise from the ashes just like Patricia's journal said. I don't know where they went. Don't know if they ever found peace. I hope they did, but I doubt it. The property sat empty for a year. The burned-out mansion became a local curiosity. Urban explorers and ghost hunters showed up, posted photos online, made up stories about hauntings and curses. Then a developer bought the land, tore down what remained of the building, built townhouses, clean, modern, no trace of what had been there before. Sometimes I drive past it. Look at those neat little homes, families living there now, kids playing in yards where we used to do forced labor, barbecues on patios where we used to hold midnight ceremonies. It's like the sanctuary never existed, but it did, and those of us who survived it carry the scars. I need to tell you about the last conversation I had with my mother. She called me a year after the fire. Said she'd been following the news. Knew what happened. I'm proud of you, she said. For what? I asked. Bitter for facing it. For trying to help those people. For being stronger than I ever was. You're not forgiven, I said. I don't know if you'll ever be forgiven. I know, she said. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see you. I see what you've become. And it's remarkable. We talk now. Not often. Maybe twice a year. Brief conversations. Surface level, mostly. The relationship is too broken to fully repair. But it exists. And that's something. I'm 58 now. 8 years since that knock on my door at 3 a.m. 8 years since I thought I'd have to go back. I didn't go back. Not permanently, but I did face it, confronted it, did what I could to help. Was it enough? I don't know. 15 people escaped. 1 person died. 40 others are still out there somewhere. Maybe still believing. Math doesn't work with trauma. You can't calculate whether you did enough, whether you saved enough people, whether it was worth it. All you can do is keep moving forward. These days, I run a nonprofit. Second Sunrise. We help people exit high control groups, cults, but also abusive relationships, extremist organizations, MLM schemes, anything where someone's autonomy has been stolen. We provide housing, job, training, therapy, legal support, community, everything I wished I'd had when I escaped at 21. Margaret works with me. So does James. So does Carla. We're a team of survivors helping other survivors. It's hard work, heartbreaking sometimes. People relapse, go back to their groups, reject our help. But some make it. Some build new lives. And those victories make the failures bearable. I think about the master sometimes. Wonder what he'd think if he could see what I built. Not the legacy he intended. Not the cult empire he dreamed of. But something better. Something real. I took everything he taught me about manipulation and control, and I use it to spot those tactics in others, to help people recognize when they're being controlled, to give them tools to escape. He thought he was training me to lead his cult. Instead, he trained me to dismantle cults. There's poetry in that, isn't there? Last month, I got a letter. No return address. Just a postmark from somewhere in Montana. Inside was a single page, handwritten. It said, "Dear Eve, you don't know me, but I was one of the 40 who stayed after you left. One of the ones who called you a traitor, a false prophet. The fire forced me to leave. I had nowhere to go, no money, no plan. I was angry, lost, but I ended up at a shelter, and they connected me with your organization, Second Sunrise. I didn't know it was yours at first. Didn't know until I'd been there a month and saw your name on a plaque. I wanted to leave, to run, because you were the enemy, the one who'd tried to destroy us. But I stayed because I had nowhere else to go. And slowly, I started to see, started to understand what you'd been trying to tell us. It took me 7 years. 7 years to deprogram, to unlearn, to remember who I was before the sanctuary. I have a job now, an apartment, friends, a life. And I wanted you to know you were right about all of it. Thank you for not giving up, even when we pushed you away. Thank you for building something for people like me. Thank you for surviving. With gratitude, Michael Chen. I cried when I read that letter. Cried for hours. Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? One person at a time. One life saved. One mind freed. You can't save everyone, but you can save someone. And that someone might save someone else. And slowly, quietly, the world becomes a little less dark. So baby, here's my final truth. You don't have to be perfect to help people. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be healed completely yourself. You just have to show up. Tell your truth. Offer your hand. Some people will take it. Some won't. But keep offering anyway. Because somebody out there needs to know they're not alone. That escape is possible. That life after trauma is real. Be that person for someone. The way I'm trying to be that person for you right now. I still have nightmares sometimes. Still see the master's face. Still hear the chanting. Still feel the fear of that 9-year-old girl being left in a dark mansion. But I also dream about the future. About the people we'll help. About the lives we'll change. About the legacy I'm building. Not the legacy the master wanted, but the one I chose. And that's the difference between him and me. He ruled through fear. I lead through choice. He imprisoned people. I set them free. He believed he was creating something eternal. I know that everything is temporary, but love, truth, freedom, those things echo. Those things last. Long after buildings burn down. Long after leaders die. Long after cults dissolve. The people remain. The survivors remain. The stories remain. And we tell those stories so that others know you can survive too. Thank you for sitting with me today, baby. For listening to my story. For holding space. For my truth. I hope it helps you. I hope it frees you. I hope it reminds you that you are stronger than whatever is trying to control you. You are your own person. You belong to yourself. Nobody else, not a cult, not a partner, not a family member, not a job, not a belief system, just you. Remember that. Hold on to that. Fight for that. Because you are worth fighting for. God bless you, honey. This is Eve, and I'll see you next time. So baby, here's what I want you to know. Cults thrive on fear, on dependency, on convincing you that you can't survive without them. But you can. You absolutely can. You are stronger than any ideology, any leader, any programming. And if you're trapped, whether in a cult, a relationship, a job, a mindset, you can escape. It won't be easy. It'll be the hardest thing you ever do. But it's possible. And on the other side, freedom, choice, yourself. That's worth fighting for. Thank you for sitting with me today, baby. This story still haunts me, but it also freed me, and I hope it frees you, too. You are your own. You belong to yourself, nobody else. Remember that. God bless you, honey. This is Eve, and I'll see you next time.